I'm sitting here, I'm hearing all these different people breaking into tech, and I'm looking up at the sky. I'm like, God, I didn't see what you did for everybody else. Go ahead, give me a shot too. And eventually, I cracked the code, and just being able to continuously go through the trial and error process. That's what really got me through it. And I find a lot of people typically stay on the same exact thing and try to think they'll get results, but you have to be able to say, okay, this didn't work. I need to go change this up. This resume I've been submitting, I'm not even getting interviews. Okay, let's go find somebody that could actually work with resumes. So it's being able to constantly adapt as you're doing it and not staying in the same lane. But it feels amazing.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dominic Gomes. This is Conversations with Dom, brought to you by I'm Breaking Into Tech. This is the first episode, and I pretty much focus on all things mentorship, coaching. And today I have a very special guest and one of the people I actually mentored in the past couple of months, Shaq Matherin.
Nice to meet you, everybody. I'm just glad to be here, and Dom is phenomenal. So, hey, I'd really pay attention to this guy.
Well, thanks, man. Well, why don't we start off just by getting to know you a little bit more? Like, tell us who you are, where you're from.
Right. So, my name is Shaquille Matherin, and I was born and raised on an island in the Caribbean called St. Lucia. I didn't quite get the height of Shaquille O'Neal, but you know what? That's all right. And coming up here as a kid, it was interesting just because everything in the U.S. is huge. You're wondering, like, on a small island in the middle of the Caribbean, it's like, yeah, there's not much going on, and you visit from living in the U.S. and it's like, wow, this place was extremely small, and it's opportunity at every corner up here. So ever since then, I've been striving to. My biggest thing is to retire my mom. So that's been the gist of it. I'm a easygoing guy, chill, and I love to eat. That's that's one of my biggest things.
That's awesome, man. Favorite food? What's your favorite food?
Favorite food? That's a tough one. I had to say Mexican for sure.
Oh yeah. You can never go wrong with that.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool, man. So, and I don't know if you want me to tell it or you want to tell it, but why don't we talk about how we met each other, right? Like, I feel like it's a pretty interesting story, and it kind of shows sort of the foundation of how to relationship build by finding a common connection. So,
Right.
I don't know. You want to do it because, like I said, you have a pretty cool background. You haven't even talked about your acting yet.
Yeah, I'm an actor, and so I was working on just building my LinkedIn a little bit more, and I had posted a picture of when I was on Better Call Saul, and Dom's a fan of Better Call Saul, so he got in the comments, and we just started chopping it up. And before you know it, I slid in his DM, was like, "Yeah, man, here's here's the clip of when I was on Better Call Saul," and so we got on a phone call right after that, and we stayed on there for about an hour or so, just getting to know each other, laughing, and ever since then, it's never been a bad time with Dom. It's just a matter of good times and laughing and just enjoying each other's presence. There's nothing like it's not a hey, okay, hey Dom, give me this, hey Dom, give me that. It's just simply being good friends, man.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I always thought about it too. Is that even though there is a mentorship dynamic here, it feels natural and it really is based upon a friendship. And I think that's one of those things that I think a lot of people put a lot of unneeded expectations on what mentorship is. Like, some people think it has to be really formal, but I don't think it really does. Like, for us, there was never a point where you asked me, like, Dom, be my mentor. It just
Right.
happened, you know.
No, hundred
And,
percent.
and well, I think that's the thing, and I guess, like, just even with that, right? Like, because I know I'm not the only. You've talked with a lot of folks, right? Like, what advice would you give to people to try to build relationships like you built with me? Because I would say it's some people might not be as, like, outgoing as you are, but, like, what are, like, a couple things that you would recommend to do to reach out?
Right. I would first say, like, start learning about that person. You don't necessarily have to go in and say, "Hey, give me this, give me that." Start maybe look at their profile and maybe they went to U of H. Talk about the record of what it was that year, or even their favorite team, whatever the case is. it's easy to figure out, hey, this is something simple that they like, and go from there. Don't go into it asking for anything, because a lot of times you're talking to people that are busy regularly. So in the sense that for them to take the time and say, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and answer, the million questions you just sent, or I'm going to hop on a call with somebody that I've never met in my life, that's absolutely crazy. And a lot of times it's not going to happen. So, and I've had the same thing happen to me in the past, where people would just slide my DMs. Hey, I saw you on this live. Can you go ahead and tell me how you did this? And hey, how about this? And you also have to be willing to put the work in too, because I feel like at the end of the day, I could tell you everything there is to learning how to get a job. But if you don't do any of that, it really doesn't matter at the end. So you really have to be able to, I'd say, just be yourself. Go in there, being yourself, figure out what they like, and have a conversation and build it up from there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing that whenever I've talked with you, you always are bringing your authentic self, and I'm kind of doing the same with you. And I think that's where we get it. And I think what I've enjoyed about our relationship in this mentorship dynamic is that I'm not just giving you advice. Like I feel like I get a lot from you. Right? I hear how you're working through things, and that gives me ideas. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't think about is that it's really a two-way street. Like I actually feel a lot of support from you all the time. And I mean, it takes time to do that. But like I said, we probably talk what, at least once a week. If not, we're at least texting each other. So I think that
Mhm.
cadence is a really important thing that has kind of worked with us.
Right. No, 100%, man. And that's the beautiful part of it. It's just things just flow when we're talking. It's not like we got to worry about, hey, let's think about this topic to talk about, or think about this topic. It's just having a conversation, and so many people go into it like, okay, I got a list of things I need to ask this person, or a list of things I need to know. And that pushes a lot of people away a lot of times.
Yeah, no, no, definitely. And one of the things I was curious, and maybe I just realized we haven't even talked about like, hey, you broke into tech. Do you want to talk a little bit about like your job and how you're liking it so far?
Right, right. So, yeah, I'm a sales solutions engineer, and so what it is for me, it was just it was a beautiful transition, because I had been constantly applying for 4 months, and I hit 16 interviews with 16 different companies. So like it was just back to back to back, and I'm sitting here, I'm hearing all these different people breaking into tech, and I'm looking up at the sky. I'm like, God, I didn't see what you did for everybody else. Go ahead, give me a shot too. And eventually, I cracked the code, and just being able to continuously go through the trial and error process. That's what really got me through it. And I find a lot of people typically stay on the same exact thing and try to think they'll get results, but you have to be able to say, okay, this didn't work. I need to go change this up. This resume I've been submitting, I'm not even getting interviews. Okay, let's go find somebody that could actually work with resumes. So it's being able to constantly adapt as you're doing it and not staying in the same lane. But it feels amazing. I tell a lot of people when they ask me how's the job, I am in a gratitude sphere right now, and it feels great to work from home. It feels great to whenever it's my lunch, I just walk in the kitchen and whip me something up. I know what my calendar looks like, so I'm not working 12 hours a day straight. Like, hey, Shaq, where you at? We need you to hammer this. There's none of that happening. It's simply the peace of mind that I've been looking for. So being in tech it's absolutely amazing. And my company has unlimited PTO, so I could take off
Oh,
anytime
nice.
I want. And so that's helped a lot too. Just in general, for me to have that work-life balance, everybody loves talking about. So just I'm just like I said, I'm in a gratitude. I'm in a spirit of gratitude right now, Dom. That's how I'm feeling.
Well, no, I'm glad to hear that it's living up to your expectations. I'm kind of curious, is was there anything that was different from what you thought it would be like being in? Like from being on the outside now being in, like what
Right.
what would you tell people like that's like a misconception or different expectations that people might not understand?
I'd say there's there's people who think regular corporate America is the same as tech corporate America, and it's a big difference in the sense that it's a lot it seems to be a lot more laid back in the sense that they want to make sure that you're not mentally you're there. You're good to work.
Mhm.
It's not something where work, keep going, keep going. We don't now of course there's always gonna be companies like that, but there's a lot of companies in tech you'll find that they really want to make sure that their employees are good and they could actually work with the right mental state. So I'd say that's a big misconception you normally hear, but in the sense that being able to actually be in it and like because I never know what it was gonna be when I'm outside. I'm always hearing different things
Sure.
like, I guess we'll see when I actually get there. And I actually get there and it's true. It's peaceful. I'm able to not have to worry about as much and just being able to have a team that really pushes me. I think that's huge too. So finding that making sure that your team is good in the sense that they have the support that's needed for you as you continue to grow. It's not just, hey, we're going to throw you in the ocean and call it a day. It's we're going to keep teaching you. You want to get to a point where are you comfortable for doing it, not hey, hey, we need you to do this tomorrow or you're fired. So it's just all out a great time in tech, I'd say. And the misconception of just it being corporate America, just another corporate job, that's not the case.
Yeah. It's funny how you mention that because I personally have only really worked in tech. So I outside of a couple of retail jobs I worked in the past, like I used to work for, man, blast from the past. It's called Long's Drugs. Now it's owned by CVS, but I was I get this, man. I used to process photos, like film.
Right.
You remember those like disposable cameras and stuff, man? Like
Oh
I
yeah.
used to load it all in there. So I did that. I worked at like a Starbucks. I worked at a Chili's,
Hmm.
and like that's sort of my frame of reference for a lot of these jobs before I kind of like graduated college. I mean, I know you have a bunch of interesting jobs that you've worked in the past because I know we've talked about you. Would you care to share a little bit about besides your acting, like what you've done too?
Right, right. Yeah, I've done a little bit of everything. Just in
Yeah.
general, even when I was in high school, I had 5 jobs. So like I started off at Kroger's, then I went to Old Navy, then I went to Best Buy, Macy's, and I was also welding in high school. So like my first
Oh
year out of
wow.
high school, yeah, I had a construction job, and I did the whole 9 yards. I've tried pipe fitting. There was a lot of things I tried before I really got into sales. And just in general, even on my weekends, I started trying different things, fencing, painting, just being able to. I didn't want to be the guy when I turned 65 and look back on life and wonder, what did I really do? And the amount of jobs that I've had, the people I've ran into, even these side jobs on the weekend while having a sales job, they taught me a lot just in general of how I don't want my life to be and the things that I want for myself and also my future family, because time flies and it's crazy to even think that, I'm almost close to my 10-year reunion for high school. And it's just
Oh
like,
wow.
I don't know where the time went, but these different jobs, the people I've ran into, the friends I've made, a lot of my friends are typically 40 to 60. Like I don't really have too many friends my age just because at 26, you have a lot of people my age that's just like, hey, let's turn up, let's go ahead and do this every weekend. And I just never saw the fun in that, man. I always wanted to figure it out, and I want to retire my mom. So that's my biggest thing. So it's always been like, okay, stay focused, Shaq. Eventually the time's gonna come. We just gotta keep staying on it. And that's why I've had so many jobs. And luckily I found tech. And so that has helped my plan tremendously because now I have a different trajectory of what I want to do and the things I want to do in tech. So I'd recommend like anybody that's young in their 20s, for example, just try different things, figure it out. And even if you're not in your 20s, it's never too late. Like there's so many different stories where you'll find somebody made millions in their 20s and they died at 30, or somebody made millions in their 30s but they died at 90. So everybody's life is different. It's never too late. It's never too late to start whatsoever. Even, Colonel Sanders, he didn't start KFC till he was after 65, and he was actually about to suicide in that time frame of everything going on. But
Yeah.
right before that happened, and he made a recipe and he did his thing, and he was a multi-billionaire years down the road. So don't ever feel like you have to be stuck in one lane. The amount of opportunity that's in the US is just insane.
I mean, it is crazy when you think about it too. Like, I mean, right, like legit. I look back at like, my grandparents on my dad's side. They
Mm.
came here not speaking any English, worked at a car plant, and they were able to make it. I mean, again, I know right now it's definitely more difficult, to make it, but the opportunities are still there. Like I
Mhm.
think it's out there, and even with the tough economic climate right now,
Mhm.
I think all the things coming with AI, people are scared of it, but I think it's going to open up lot of new opportunities. Which I know you're big on Chat GPT. I know we've talked about it a bit. Like, has it helped you a lot in terms of your work or how you're thinking about things?
Yeah, no, 100%. And and that's the thing. Some people feel like they need to be scared of AI, but you really don't. It's a tool that's there to help you at the end of the day. Like, whether you need to go ahead and figure out what a company's about in a few seconds, like Chat GPT will pull all that up in just a matter of whatever you type. But one thing you want to remember when it comes to Chat GPT, the more specific that you are in whatever that you're typing to it, the better the outcome will be. If you're just giving it some basic a monologue or whatever the case is, then that's all you'll get is a basic answer. But if you tell it like, hey, I want you to talk about exactly like, hey, I want a story that's funny. I want it to be engaging, that's personable, whatever the case is, or I want you to find me a restaurant in the area that has gluten-free salad, whatever the case is that you want to look up. The more specific you are, the better. But yeah, it's a tool there to make our lives easier. Don't look at it as, oh, it's a weapon. I don't know what's going to go on, because chances are that's where you get left behind, because as the years go by, everybody's going to be using AI.
Well, I agree, and I think there are things that will get sort of automated, but there's still always going to be a human element in all of this. Like, I look at it as more like you said, a productivity booster. It's meant to enhance your work and free you up to work on other things.
Right.
Um, yeah, and I get that. We talk about it a lot at work too, as well. With we're talking about AI with our customers at this point too. So it's interesting to see what the next 5 years are. But I'm bullish that it's going to open up a lot of opportunities that people didn't even think about. Like
Right.
that's what I think.
No, it's true, man. And we're in a time where it's everything's transitioning. Like, there's a lot of jobs that's disappearing because of automation. But you'll also find there's a lot of jobs that's going to stick around because, like you said, that human quality, being able to actually laugh or smile and get a heart to heart, not just, okay, I could do that. No, no. I mean, eventually, I'm sure they're going to try to have robots that try to have some type of personality, but there's always going to be the human aspect that's needed. And people are going to feel more comfortable no matter what industry that you're in to work with that. So don't just learn how to adapt is the biggest thing, because that's all it's ever been. When you look at going back when we didn't have no computers, or, when we was an industrial era, as we kept going moving forward into the future, things got automated, but there was also different jobs that you could learn how to operate. So it's just a matter of being able to say, okay, I'm staying on this. Maybe I could learn some things about AI to get a job in AI. Or, maybe I can create some, maybe I could be a program, whatever the case is, knowing what to adapt with as the time goes by.
I agree, and I think it actually solidifies the stuff we're talking about. That even with AI as being something that is on the forefront and it's going to be mass adoption, it means relationships are more important than ever. Because even if things are AI based, like to get jobs, to move up within companies, you still need to build relationships with folks. Because at the end of all of this stuff, like AI is built by humans too. So there is
Yeah.
a human element to all of this too. So
Hmm.
to even get that job, it's not going to be AI. Maybe they're looking at it, but the ultimate say, unless maybe that does happen in the future where AI is just deciding everything, you know.
Right.
but but I think that's the key thing that I see with you all the time, right? Is like you're genuine at connecting with people. And I think that connectedness is something that, a lot of people think it's just about getting the technical background, or they think it's about, having all these credentials. I don't think it really is. It's doing what you did.
Right.
It really is. Like that is the secret, because now that you're in there, you know, at some point, whether you want to move up in your current job or another thing comes up, like you have a network.
Right, right. And yeah, you're completely right, man, because even when I was interviewing, there's multiple companies that was like, yeah, it'll be nice to be more technical, but at the end of the day, all it is if they like you, if they see that you're part of the culture and you could fit in that culture, they'll train you all day. And that's the thing, like, yeah, unless you're like a doctor, of course, you definitely need to
Yeah.
go to school or something in that nature. But when it comes to these other types of jobs, you could easily get trained on, and a lot of these companies, even for sales engineering, for example, a lot of these companies, they'll train you for about 6 months. So it's not like you're going to be productive the moment you come out and join the company a month later. That's typically not how it works. They have to go ahead and show you what the software looks like, and you have to learn that software inside and out, get in front of that client, and just be able to say, okay, this works. All right, now I know my flow, I can continue on. But it's not like you're gonna just jump into it out the gate.
No, definitely, definitely. It's funny. I just had a conversation with actually a mutual contact with of ours, Tracy
Hmm.
Harvey.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah, we were talking yesterday, and I was telling her about this, that it's the reality in this industry is you're not expected to know everything, but you are expected to know how to get the answer or come to a or solve a problem. And
Right.
I think I think that it's more of the journey than the destination that matters the most. And I think that's how it is too in general with, you look at your career, or any sort of goal you're trying to attain is there's almost like heck, you know how this works. You love movies, man. There's a hero's journey aspect in sort of everything that you do to a certain degree. There's,
Hmm.
you know, there's trials and tribulations, there's self-doubt, there's a moment of hope, and then
Hmm.
there's an accomplishment, right? And I feel like that's kind of how life goes a lot of times, especially when you're trying to do this stuff in tech.
Right. Right. No, you're
Yeah.
completely right, man. And just being able to learn along the way, because it's a process, man. And as you go through that process, you have to know in your mind that, hey, it's gonna come. Like, because I've known so many different people that got into the job market. And it's like, okay, I'm gonna get this, and a month later they're gone, just because of the fact of it's tough. We're not gonna sugarcoat it whatsoever. It's hard, but you also have to think at the end of the day, if you don't do it, you'll be in the same exact situation you are right now. So it's being able to say, okay, I want this, and you got to know your why. Your why has to be strong enough for you whenever those days come. That's bad. Okay, I got to do this for my daughter. I love my daughter to death. I know once I get into here, once I get this job, I could change my daughter's life completely. So being able to have your why during that process is so huge, because there's so many days that comes and it's like, I just put in the 30th application again, or I just put in this app, slid in some DMs, this ain't working. It comes. But being able to have that mental fortitude, and knowing why you're doing it at the end of the day is big.
Hey man, trying to retire your mom is that's the ultimate goal.
Yeah.
Like I
Oh,
hear you
nice.
on that.
Yeah,
Like I
man.
mean that's a noble thing that
Yeah,
that you want to do.
yeah. The thing is, man, for me, it was knowing how much it took for her to even bring us to the U.S. and thinking about that all the time. It's always something I'm like, I gotta get there. I gotta get there. But just in general, I think as we don't think about our parents as much as time goes on, and it's like, yeah, they raised us. This is what they were supposed to do. Blah blah blah. But when you really think about how long of their life they took raising us, it's like, wow, they spent 20 to 30 years just continuously, working to make sure that we got some food, to going to school, clothes on our back, the whole 9 yards. And we get to our 30s or whatever the case is. It's like, yeah, I love my parents, but I don't see them as much. I'll see them when I see them. And then 30 years pass by and it's like, dang, I regret not spending all that time with them. I regret, not thanking them as much as they did for us. Because honestly, yeah, there's bad parents out there, don't get me wrong. But the good parents out there that actually do the right things, when you really think about how much effort they took to making you who you are today, that's amazing because you've seen some of these people out here that's crazy, that don't know what's going on, that don't have the right mental state, the whole 9 yards. To be able to have somebody that actually took the time to make sure that you were good and spent that much time in it is, man, it's phenomenal when you really think about
Oh no, I feel the same way. Like funny enough, just before we were getting on here, I was having I called up I try to call my mom every day. Just it's we're all close to her. There's a bunch of us, right? Like I'm from a big family, but
it.
my dad picked up the phone, right? And in our household there was six of us, right? And he was able to do it on a tech salary in the Bay Area, right? In one
Mhm.
of the most expensive things. And I look back and I'm just seeing like that sort of example of working hard. And same thing with my mom, right? She worked too as well and took care of us. And heck, my grand like I'm going to my grandma who lived with us too. Her birthday's next week and she's turning 92. It's unbelievable when you think about all the sacrifices parents make for you. And I feel the same way, right? Like I would give anything for them too. Like,
Right, right. No,
we literally wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them.
right, exactly, man. And it's something I always think about. I'm like, my mom, for example, she'll be turning 50 this year, and it's just like, man, where does the time go? And I don't know how much longer I got with her. Like, don't get me wrong, 50 is young, but in today's world, you just never know. And it's something I always think about, like, hey, I gotta cherish as much as I can, but I want to be able to give that to her before whatever happens, and just being ready for that. But man, it's funny you talked about giving your mom a call the other day and your grandma. I've been in Texas for 2 weeks now, so working from home in tech, all I do is bring my laptop and my screen, and I'm
Oh
able to
yeah.
work from my mom's house for 2 weeks. Like it's no question, like, hey boss, can I go ahead and do this, or can I? It's just Shaq, just show up, and I got the Wi-Fi, I'm good to go. The flexibility, man, that it is amazing to have that, to say I could work anywhere as long as I got that Wi-Fi, I am good to go. So that's another thing. Man, I can't get over that flexibility.
And even hearing you say it, it's something that like easily for people that have been in it for a long time, like
Mhm.
could easily take it for granted. You know what I mean? Just like not even think about it. And
Mhm.
that's where it's when you saying it is pretty unbelievable to think that like what 25, like not even 25 years ago, like 10, 15 years ago, like we'd all be expected to go into an office every single day for everything, right? And even
Right.
though there's folks out there doing hybrid work or full remote, like they didn't really have those options. But now,
Man.
like, I can I can do stuff on my phone. Like I'm on my Slack answering stuff while I'm grabbing coffee in the morning. Sometimes because it's like you got to get out. That's another key thing by working from home, though, man. You got to if you don't. And I'd be curious to see how that transition's been for you, man.
Mhm.
Like trying to figure out like, okay, when do I stop or when do I have to like interact with people?
Right.
Because it gets hard.
Yeah, no, that's true, man. Like even so on Microsoft Teams, we have all these different groups. There's even like for the company, you could find a foodie group and things in that nature. So like having all those different resources to always be able to talk to people. And in our SC group chat, we're always cracking jokes. We're sending memes, the whole 9 yards. So that's really helped me in the sense feel like, okay, I'm not in this by myself. I don't have to worry about like, oh man, I ain't really talked to somebody in a very long time. And even every day, for example, I go outside and I typically walk a few miles. So like I'll just walk around my apartment complex, get my daily vitamin D, and it just feels amazing to do that. And yeah, it definitely could feel while you're at home and nothing's really going on. It's just like, dang, it's just me, myself, and I in here, huh? Yeah, and so it sucks at times having that, but knowing that, hey, I could just go ahead and FaceTime one of my buddies right now, or hey, I could go ahead, let's
Yeah.
hop on a call real quick. I got that. It's not like, hey, Shaq, I need you to be doing this right at this exact moment. There's no break, Shaq. We got to keep going. No, no, no. It's hey, man, do what's best for you as long as as long as your work gets done. You do what you got to do. Hey, we're not tripping at you. Yeah, you are good to go.
Yeah, I think breaking it up and being able to have that sort of relationship stuff. And it's funny you mentioned about having like a group around foodies or whatever. Even in our Slack, we have one. I'm probably a pretty active member of the hashtag game group. Like we'll talk about video games or whatever. Long
Right,
story short, for anyone playing Tears of the Kingdom, Zelda, that's a fun game. That's all I gotta
right, right.
say.
You already know it, man, and that's having that community, man, is huge to just be able to come interact with people regularly. Because in a regular job, I find myself in all the jobs that I've had, it's always been cool to find a buddy that works with me. Like, hey, what's going on? And just having that connection. And working from home, you don't see these people well, yeah, you see them, but you're not in person with them essentially, and working anything physical, whatever the case is. So being able to, talk to people randomly, meet somebody else new in the company, like, hey, let's hop on a call real quick. I noticed that, hey, you love the same type of food I love. Maybe, even in Albuquerque, I got one of my friends. He hit me up. I had him on LinkedIn, and me and this guy, we'd talk every now and then, but it wasn't anything serious. But I didn't even know that he was in Albuquerque, and he was like, "Hey, let's go grab a coffee, man." I was like, I didn't even notice he was in that. I was like, okay, cool. We go grab a coffee, and we just started doing that. It's been about 2 months, 2 or 3 months we've been doing it, and I invited another guy right after that. So he just joined the group of going to get coffee each week. So we go out and do an hour each week and just hang and talk about life. And they're both SEs too, but in different sectors. So just being able to network and make new friends just by being in tech, oh man, it's amazing.
Yeah, and those connections, likewise. Like I'll put it this way, I'm just going to throw out there. If I was a hiring manager, I'd try to grab you, man. I'd be like, all right, we're gonna get Shaq here, man. You know what I mean? But I wanted to bring that back because you mentioned community with inside your company and how important that is. What about mentorship inside your company so far?
Mm,
How's that been going? Like pursuing like a mentorship in your company. Like,
right.
care to have any thoughts around that?
Yeah, I think like you should definitely know who that person is, who that person is that's had all these accomplishments, all the accolades, the whole 9 yards, and they know their way around. Being able to have that and regularly talk to somebody like that in your same role, it's easier to come up because they've already been through that trial and error process. So, for example, in
Hmm.
my SE group, there's a guy named Tyler, and this guy, he knows everything. And same thing with Chris. Chris, he he started off in support, and then he went into being an SE. So, like having that experience in the best of both worlds, there's things that they all tell me, and it just blows my mind because there's three of them, and what happens is they all train me. And so one person has a training style of, okay, I'm going to give you all this different types of information. I'm going to show you how to do this. The other one is like, okay, Shaq, go ahead and start clicking into the software and see how that works. All right. I want you to go ahead. What about this? What does that look like? And so that's one style. And then the last style is, okay, Shaq, let me go ahead and see how you feeling today. Let's go ahead. I'll show you a little bit, and then you could go ahead and do a little bit. So going back and forth, and just being able to to have all those different styles from people that's been in the game, that's done all these different demos, that's seen a lot. It's great to have, because I'd say the biggest thing when starting at any new company, the people that are killing the game, if you're able to learn from them, it's easier for you to come up and learn exactly like, okay, cool, I don't have to go and fall on my face that many times because they just taught me how not to fall on my face. So I would highly recommend finding you somebody that's really been out there like that, in your company. And like I said, just go out and have a call with them. Like, hey, how's it going, man? You been good? Yeah, cool, cool, cool. Whatever the case is, and start build that relationship because hey, at the end of the day, you you'll find that especially when you work at the company that they're willing to really help you out. They're willing to say, hey, okay, let me go ahead and teach you this because why not, right? Why would they not want to see you succeed? Because once you succeed, they succeed too. You're the one they taught.
Makes them
So
look good too.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's amazing. And even in real life, yeah, a mentor might be a little bit harder to get, but when you're in a company and you're actually working for a company, they're a lot more willing to like, hey, I'll teach you anything that you want to learn. Hey, I
Because
got
you're
you.
working together.
Exactly. You're working together. So and it takes more stress off of that person whenever you're in the same role because for example, me and another girl, we just got into our roles. And so there's five SCs at this time now. So once we are actually up to date, they don't have to do 50 demos in a day. They could just do 5 demos in a day, and we're all splitting it up evenly. It's not as hard when you're doing that. So their goal is to, hey, I want to be able to see you do this and learn exactly what's needed. So hey, I could actually chill for a little bit. Maybe I could go take a little bit longer walk now. So that helps everybody.
Well, it helps everyone, and I think you bring up those same people that you're talking with, like they have stuff that they can learn too, and it just continues to be sort of this, progression, right? I'll give you a great example, right? Like when I was new at Zendesk, right? Have a great manager, have a great team. I love everyone, but I learn a lot from a couple of gentlemen, same styles. We have Kiran, who he was a product manager, knows the product inside and out. He any technical question you can ask him, and he knows. And then there's Gary, and then there's Kevin, and then there's Lee. Pretty much all of those guys, like those three that I just mentioned, like
Mm.
20 years experience, Oracle, like have seen pretty much everything.
Mhm.
And every time I get on a call with these guys, I'm just like, man, I'm learning so much, right? Like I can teach other people, like teaching you what I know, but
Mhm.
I'm learning from them too as well. So I feel like it's this virtuous cycle of everyone's paying it forward to a certain degree. And I think I already know, I don't even have to ask the question, but I'm going to ask it. But like, how are you paying it forward?
Man. No, I like that. I
I'm
like
putting you on
that.
the spot, man.
No, as far as paying it forward, man, I've definitely I found a few people that's in my DMs that I've really just been helping in general. Like, hey, okay, you could try it this way. Hey, maybe say this whenever you're sliding into DMs for a worker, somebody that has the same role at a company that you're interviewing with. So just being able to help people, but like these are people that didn't just come up to me and say, "Give me this." It was more like, "Hey, what's going on, man? Where you been?" or whatever. I saw that you was on a show, whatever the case is, and just started connecting from there. So I've been, in a sense, mentoring myself. But
Dude,
it's it's
that makes me happy to hear, man. Because you're gonna be a great mentor. You're a great mentor to anyone. Like that's all I'm gonna
I appreciate it, man, and it definitely is cool because, like, for example, like there's a girl named Aisha, and she was the one who helped me with my resume, and I've sent her to somebody else, and after their resume was said and done, they started getting interviews left and right. So like that feels good to hear that somebody from what I did was able to find some success, to able to find a little bit a more positive way on their journey compared to like, I haven't been applying for so long, I haven't seen anything happen, and so it feels amazing. But you know what? Too, just anybody that's a teacher, they will tell you that whenever you're teaching somebody something else, you learn yourself. So you'll learn something new in the process of that. You may feel like, oh yeah, I've known a lot, but while you're teaching them, it's like, "Oh, I didn't think of it from that angle because everybody's different. Everybody thinks differently. So being able to talk to somebody as you're teaching them something, they may say, "What about have you tried it this way?" And it's like, wow, I've been doing this the whole time and didn't even think about that. So I'd recommend it.
Well, I mean, a good example is I think one of like a key thing that I would say, anyone who's listening, when you find a mentor, you establish a relationship. One of the key things is like do mock interviews, do mock demos, anything that you're doing, like run it by your mentor, right? And I know you did that with me, and your demo that you did for the was it the Boys and Girls Club demo that you kind of did, like,
Man.
dude, I love that, man. Like, I thought that was great. Like, and I learned like some great storytelling, man, because I told you to put some emotion in it, and like, dude, that like actor's chops, man, just like came out the gate. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I appreciate it, man. And you're completely correct because being able to practice with you. So, like, for example, I got the news on like Thursday. So, my plan was to practice twice a day, every day until that Monday. And so, since I've been practicing and that Sunday came around, being able to talk with you and go through it, like, hey, here's some things I learned you could try with this too. That changed everything. And being able to fix this quirk, the little small parts here, or okay, you could do it like this. I've heard about that. Like that is big, man, because I only know what I know. So being able to have somebody else give their advice in something they've been doing a long time too, that helps. That helps completely.
Well, and it comes down because I tell this to people all the time, right? Like, you're going to get a lot of opinions from different people all the time. You
Hmm.
don't have to take all of them, right? But they can help infer what your style is, right? And I think that's
Hmm.
the thing is good mentorship, and even being a good mentee is
Right.
knowing what to listen for when you're getting feedback, and what to take and then what to not take, right? To say
Right.
like, oh, I appreciate that suggestion, but I'm not going to do that. Maybe, you know, it's like I hear it, but the whole idea is that it's all about coming into your own style, which
Hmm.
you're going to find on your own. Like those other guys you were talking about who were teaching you how to demo, like that's what works for them. You're going to find what works for you, and it could be a combination of things that you learn from all three of them.
Right. No, 100%. And that's what it's been, man. Just being able, as I've been practicing, because I'm almost to the point where I'm doing the full software demo, not just partial pieces anymore, because I've been doing a ton of mock partial pieces of the software. But I'm getting to the point where I've already rounded everything together and I'm going to start doing the full piece. And yeah, the different pieces that each one of them have taught me and seeing them in action when I'm shadowing a demo and just staying in the background, like, I like the way they did that, or this joke they cracked. I'm gonna take that piece right there, or I'm gonna take that piece from him over there. Let me see from her that was nice. Okay. And you add that in there, and then I'm gonna add some Shack in it, and like, okay, cool. This is what I'm gonna put in here so I could go ahead and personalize it, whatever the case is. So you're completely right, man.
I mean, it's pretty clear. I'm assuming you put that charm and humor in your demos, man, because it is just who wouldn't want to buy from you, dude? That's all I gotta say.
No,
And I'm not
you're
just saying that, but I mean, dude, like I'm just saying this, like forever, like if you wanted to become an AE at some point, dude, you would clean house, man. You would make so much commission. That's all I'm
man.
gonna say.
I appreciate it, Dom. I appreciate and like I said, man, Dom, you're the man. Don't underplay yourself. You've done a lot, like and it's not just me that's been his mentee. Like this guy has been around, and the things that he's been doing, the positivity that he's been putting in the community. That's amazing, man. That is phenomenal because he doesn't have to do this. Like Dom honestly could just stick to doing his job and calling it a day, paying attention to his family, and that's it. He don't have to, actually teach people anything. He doesn't have to put into the community that he chooses to. So like that, man, I can't thank you enough.
Hey, you're welcome, and thank you for being a good mentee, man. Like it's like been one of those things where there's a few people I've met over the past like year, and I like dude, like I love a relationship. And for people listening to this, like this is, if you want to know why I'm having these conversations and starting this, is because I want people to have a similar relationship that Shaq and I had. And that's both for people looking for a mentor, but also men, you know, people that want to mentor, right? Like this has been the most fulfilling part of my tech career. I feel like this point is, it's not about getting the biggest deal, or it's not about, like making a certain amount of money. It's really being able to help others,
Mm,
especially folks that have been out there. So,
right.
like, hey, we're people that have been in the industry have so much that they can teach. And I think there is a big mismatch between like people out there who don't know they want to be coaches,
Hmm.
and there's people that want to get coached that just
Right.
there's just a big disconnect there. So
Hmm.
I'm hoping that, the things that we're talking about just can serve as inspiration for folks to pursue these types of relationships.
Exactly, man. And you said it. You said it, because just being able to have a good conversation with somebody and not going straight into, hey, what can they give me automatically, that will save you so much time. I even had to tell a couple of people that, that slid in my DMs, like, hey man, you got to be careful how you talk to people, because you imagine how many other DMs they may already be getting, and for you to just say, "Hey, let's get on a call," or "Hey, let's go ahead and do this," without even knowing anything about that person, and it just comes as "give me." That's all you get is a "give me," and then you give it, and you don't hear from them again. You never hear. It's like, oh, this person just disappeared. So it comes to a point where it's like, yeah, I'm not paying attention to what this person just said. You know?
Yeah, I mean, it's true. And I think it's all about personalization, but come with a point of view, come reach out to someone and maybe tell them something that you noticed, an observation.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
hey, I noticed on this, you said this,
Right.
and I found that very interesting. Have a
Exactly.
follow-up question around that.
Hmm.
And then one question leads to another, leads to another, leads to another. And that's like the people that I've talked with, including yourself, right? Like that's just how it's been. It's become a natural thing.
Hmm.
I don't think that there's going to be a point where you just ask someone, "Can you be my mentor?" Like that. If you're asking that conversation, then you guys aren't on the same page from a relationship standpoint.
Right, right. No, you're 100% right. And that's the thing, like, I'm glad that, we're able to bridge that gap to show people like, hey, this is what is the right way of doing it, not just continue, cuz there's so many people that will do that same exact thing. Like, hey, I saw you on this, be my mentor. Does it sound good? And then they don't get a reply, and it's like, dang. Well, let me go ahead and go to the next guy and do the same exact thing, hoping for something to change.
Well, yeah, and I think the other good thing, and we kind of talked about this on here too, like I think for folks trying to get into the tech, trying to find a relationship like you and me, like that, not to say it's always going to be like that, or relationships come in different forms. People are different, but then also like once you're in, the bigger question is kind of what you're two are trying to do right now, finding that mentorship within your company.
Mhm.
That's what we always recommend too, as well. But also keeping your outside mentorship too, because
Right.
again, like I think of it this way: is like we're kind of like, I mean, you, I know you like sports, right? We're like we're like baseball players, right? We may get traded, we may move to different teams, right?
Mhm.
And you still keep in contact with folks from that team, right? And I
Right.
think that's the key thing is people move. I still have mentors out there, people that I still talk with, like
Mhm.
shout out to Chris Kraft who's out there, man. I know you say you're not my mentor, but you're my mentor. Like I look at you as a mentor. Like so, uh, but the key thing is the more you move through your career, the more these relationships that you will have, right?
Right. Right.
And you keep those people with you, and ultimately, when you want to move into something else at some point, like you have that because all we have is our network, really, our
That's
network
it.
and our skills. But like you
Yeah.
gotta have
And
people vouch for you, man. That's how it
that's
works.
it. That's it, man. They say your network is your net worth at the end of the day, and just being able to always have that. Hey, okay. hey, I got this opportunity for you over at this company, and regularly having that is amazing. Even like for me, since I've been in, even before I was getting into tech, I I reached out to a lot of different, directors of different companies or managers, and I asked them simply like, hey, if there's one thing that you could do when you first started off as a sales engineer and pre-sales, um, what would that advice be to your younger self? What does that look like? And being able to hear back from so many different people, or even asking, hey, what's your favorite go-to pre-sales books? That helps too. And I've gotten a lot of feedback from just both of those, and also I've been meeting a lot of people just from simply asking a simple question. And so having that and continuously learning from different people that's been in those shoes, that's been in those rooms, it shortens up your time span of finding whatever trajectory of success that you may want. So learning from those different people that's been there, it's a lot easier to get to the point you need to get to.
I agree, and I think with that, I think we'll start wrapping this up. But I did want to ask you one last question, right? Is because you heard all these people with the trajectory of like their careers, what's your goal in the next 5 years? Like, where do you want to be at?
Man, um, next
I know I'm
five.
putting you on the spot there, man. It wasn't on the list, but like
You're good. You're
that's
good.
that's just how I go.
No, yeah, you're good. You're good. Next 5 years, I definitely see myself. I want to be a principal sales engineer within that time frame. I also want to get farther in my acting career too. I want to be able to have bigger roles on there, but still have the flexibility in my tech. And that's the cool thing about being in tech. I still got the time to take my acting classes. I still got time to, if I book a gig, let me go ahead and go over here for a little bit and then come back to work. But I also want to be able to say, okay, cool. I help these different people, and being able to, when I look back, like, hey, 3 years down the road, Shaq, you did this, and now this is where I'm at because of the things you said to me. That's amazing. And also, last but not least, being able to invest. I'm big on investing. I want to be able to say, okay, I have this many duplexes or fourplexes, and I could go ahead and continue building that real estate portfolio, crypto, stocks, the whole 9 yards. So I want to build an empire, and being in tech allows me to have more time, but make more money to be able to have that. And one thing I tell everybody is, as you get into tech and you start seeing money, do not go out of your way to just start buying more liabilities. Don't get me wrong. You will have the nice truck, you'll have the nice house, the whole 9 yards. But essentially, you're still living on the same level you were before, just with nicer things. And now you're stuck in the bind. There's bills that's gonna. Now the only way to come back is by getting a higher paying job. Which, don't get me wrong, tech has a lot of money, but you don't want to constrict yourself to just, this is all I can do, and I have to stay at this job for 10 years. If not, I don't know what's gonna happen. I may lose the house. You don't ever want to put yourself in that position. So if you get into tech, once that happens, maybe pay off your debt, and start formulating a plan of like, okay, this is what I want. Maybe I want to live in Cancun one day. Whatever the case is, figure out that plan before you just start adding up more and more liabilities, and now you can't even afford what you're doing anymore.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, I can tell you, lifestyle inflation is a huge problem in the tech industry. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
yeah.
and
So, I mean, I think you have the right things. Well, Shaq, I really appreciate the time, and I think this was like a great first episode of conversations with Dom, and again, just want to thank you very much for joining us.
yeah, no, Dom, I just want to thank you so much for letting me be your first guest. And I can't wait to see where things go with you as you continue on this journey. So, hey, again, thank you for having me, brother.
Hey, you got it, man. All right, everyone. Thanks again. If you want to see more content like this, please follow on Breaking Into Tech on LinkedIn, and there's going to be more content from the other co-hosts on that. But everyone, have a great one. Thanks.